The views expressed on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Recovery Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this episode should not be taken as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guests. KHLT and Take 12 Recovery Radio are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Well, greetings, my friends. I am the Monty Man from Take 12 Recovery Radio, and this is the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. And now, here are your Came to Believe Recovery podcasting broadcasters to launch us forth on this week's show.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. My name is Alicia, and this is Tom and Monty Man. Hi, guys.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Do we have a show for you today?
I'm smiling.
Gosh. That was the Jetsons, that song.
Yes.
You are
Monty.
correct.
The Jetsons.
Was he supposed to say that out loud?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're not giving away
I
stuff.
thought it was at the beginning Lost in Space, but then it was the Jetsons.
It was
I waited.
Hanna-Barbera.
Hanna-Barbera. Yeah.
Yep. And it's interesting. It's interesting to note that the Flintstones, which is also Hanna-Barbera, and the Jetsons, the beginning of the cartoon and the ending are almost identical.
Yeah.
You know, at the end, the wife locks him out. In the Flintstones, it's Dino. No, it's the saber-toothed tiger. She locks Fred out, and then he goes in and he throws the saber-toothed tiger out. Then he gets knocked out. And then in the Jetsons, it's he's on a treadmill and he can't get off the treadmill at the end. And he's
you know too much about this, Monty.
I know. Isn't it wonderful?
Wait, now can I do the weekly wine?
Yes, go for it.
What is it?
I've got a lot today, but
oh boy, we got a mailbag too. So
all right,
awesome.
Well, I mean, a praise report is we just came back from Santa Monica. I don't think I talked about it last week. Did we talk about the Santa Monica retreat last week?
Yeah, I think
we did.
we talked about.
Yeah, we
I
did.
think so, and the fact that I wasn't there.
It was very successful. But the weekly wine is 9 miles. Or it was 9 miles from the ARC to our Airbnb. And guess how long the GPS said it would take by car?
40 minutes.
1 hour and 14 minutes
I don't
to go to
remember
West
that.
Hollywood. So my weekly wine is traffic is no
In
good.
LA is terrible.
LA traffic is. Guys, at an 8-minute pace running, I can run that quicker.
I can walk it quicker. I have a cripple that I can walk.
How frustrating. And it is. I don't care. I mean, here we can talk about, I don't care how, aware you are and how well you're adjusted and everything. That kind of traffic is just ludicrous. It's insane.
Nuts.
How people
Well, they
can
just
do
have
it.
to plan for it, right? They just know it is, and it is, I guess.
Well, everybody's on their cell phones. Everybody's on their. They're not even paying attention to their driving.
No, I think
just
there's
so
too
many cars.
people.
It's so many cars. There's a phenomenon in California because of the lack of mass transit. Everybody has cars. We would notice, how come there's like 6 cars at every house? 2 cars up on the grass, 4 in front. Everybody drives. So there's a lot of cars.
Well, you live in a world, though, where you do little driving. You do train or transit or something, right? You don't drive hardly at all, right?
I don't drive very much, no. But when I do, it's never traffic. I mean, I went 40 miles for the race this weekend in an hour. So it's But if
Wow.
people live there, I mean, we the rule of thumb, which Alicia knows for sure from traveling with us, is when you go to LA area, you better be staying in the town where your event is, the very locality. If you're gonna be in Pasadena, stay in Pasadena. If you're in Anaheim, stay in Anaheim. Do not stay in one other town to cross over to that town to save money. You are gonna not save anything.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
save money, but your time, you won't be saving time.
Right?
Or if you go to Santa Monica, guess who you won't find?
Who?
What?
Me.
We went to Mel's Drive-In, which was an American Graffiti. It's right around the corner from the ARC.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the Santa Monica Pier for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's where my story started. Huh. But I wasn't there. Well, okay. That's fine.
Just
that
giving
a
you a
dig?
chance to
Is that
grow. Just giving you a chance to grow.
Is that what it is? My father used to say, now you get to grow. I'm like, shut up. Hey, listen,
All right, let's hear the mailbag.
we got the mailbag, I think. A little ditty.
It's time to shine a light on what you want to say. In the Came to Believe Recovery Mailbag today.
And now the Monty Man will open the mail.
Yes. Thank you, Cecil.
So can I have a vote?
Yeah.
No.
Do you believe in democracy, Monty? So if we vote, the three of us, and you lose, you have to do it? Are we
Vote on
agreeing?
what?
I know what he's going to do. Go ahead.
That squeaky voice. Can we never hear that voice
Well,
again?
it's Cecil. I can't help
I
that.
like Cecil.
You do?
Cecil lives in the computer. And,
I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah.
It's like a gnome voice.
Cecil has been part of Take 12 Radio for probably 15 years.
So it's an institution. All
We
right.
take the microphone up to the state
I'll
hospital.
just I'll just
You'll just
Re-
keep your mouth shut.
I'll pull back my.
Listeners, if you would like to see Cecil go away forever, don't email me.
But doesn't Cecil like his voice change? He grows up at some point.
That is Cecil's grown-up voice. You should have heard Cecil when he was a teenager.
All right.
All right. The first email is for Sandy, and she says, today, May 22nd, I was listening to the show, and the young lady, meaning Alicia, was saying that she was an overeater and something about maybe having trouble with that because she has to eat every day. Yeah, we've talked about that. Well, you got to eat. Yeah. Many years ago, God spoke to my thought life and said that alcoholism was exactly the same as overeating. An alcoholic has to drink fluid every day to stay alive. They just cannot drink alcohol, but they have to make choices for coffee, tea, water, milk, juice, etc. The same for an overeater. I have to eat every day to survive. However, I don't have to eat the foods that I'm allergic to, like my alcoholic foods. She's comparing it to alcoholism. I only can stay away from the alcoholic foods one day at a time by the power of God. Thank you. God bless you all for what you're doing. Sandy, what do you think about that, Alicia? That comparison.
Yeah, I get that. I guess it is, yeah, but alcohol, you don't have to drink alcohol. You don't have to see alcohol. And eating, you have to eat.
Yeah, but they're saying, you missed it. You have to drink. You just don't have to drink alcohol. Like you have to drink fluids.
Right.
So
But
she's trying to let you
I
off the
could
hook.
say-
I get it. So you could say, I have to eat. But those things that I'm allergic to, she's aligning it that way.
I'm not
kinda
allergic
like it.
to anything. I can eat anything I want.
Yeah, but it causes a bad reaction. That's
Yeah,
your
so
the
it's
allergy
more
is the
the-
thing that the craving kicks off. Mm-hmm. I like it.
I know what you're saying, though, Alicia. You've got food, even healthy food. I mean, you could
Right.
a person
I can
could go
overeat
crazy with that,
steak
right?
and butter. I
So-
can overeat
yeah.
anything.
So you have healthy food in your cupboard, in your refrigerator, on your counter, but you don't have bottles of wine and whiskey all over the place. So I get what you're saying. But I also get what she's saying. I thought it was very interesting. Because you have to drink fluids. Yeah. So
Right.
I get what you're both saying. Yeah. She and then she sent a second email.
Ooh.
Yeah. She said, "Hi again, Monty. I know Tom was just reading from the big book, the ABCs, and C says that God could and would if he was sought. In the beginning, so remember that from last week, Tom? You were talking about that. Right. In the beginning, and she's correct about this, in the beginning before things were changed, my understanding that it actually said God can and will.
She's right. It did.
She's right. It
It
wasn't
did say that.
contingent on whether we sought him or not. He could and would, period. He can and
Yeah.
will. And that's good news that God will act on our behalf even when we're disobedient, even when we don't do anything. Now, I'm not saying that always is the case, but man, it sure has been in my life. God will step in and do something for me that I can't do for myself, even though I could, but I didn't, if that makes sense. That makes sense?
I don't know if that makes sense to me.
So
To be honest.
So what Bill was saying when he
Like,
wrote
if-
that is that God can and will. Just
Oh,
period.
like he
can and
could
will.
take our addiction away even if we don't do the steps?
Well, yeah, and
No,
that's
it's-
happened with people.
He
There's been
could.
Yeah,
people
I mean,
that God
I think it's understood or it's assumed that it was can and will if you seek them.
Yeah, but he can and will even if you don't seek him. It doesn't mean he will in every case, but
But he could.
so here's the thing. Here's why I think it said he can and will, period, is because as believers in Scripture, we know that we don't even come to God without him drawing us. The Bible says that no man comes to the Father without him drawing us. So we don't even come to him. We don't even seek him without his power drawing us. And I think that's what Bill was saying. Now,
Well,
is that-
she's
You
right,
have
though.
to choose to follow and choose to believe, right?
Can will. I think the first edition says can and will.
I think you're right. I know
And
they
did
were
you,
from manuscript.
did you guys know that from a lot of our influence, speaking of that, with the Salvation Army, they're switching to the first edition of the Big Book.
Book?
That's what they're going to buy a bunch of them and give them to everybody.
Sweet. That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay. The third email comes from Gall, our friend Gall. 12 steps straight from the Bible. That was what the show was called last week. And then he says, if it wasn't, how else could I believe in them? Great to see the attached scripture to each step, because we talked about the scriptures that went with them. They are certainly God inspired, and I am grateful for that. Also, the word ministry is a bit closed. I prefer the term fellowship. After all, a church is a fellowship of believers. Thanks for another great YouTube show. Because we talked about the word ministry versus fellowship and that kind of thing. So nice. Thanks, Paul.
That's good. Guys, email us more.
Yes. we want your
We want you
comments.
to.
We want some more for the Seesaw petition.
All right, that's we're going to close the mailbag.
Came to,
Monty at CameToBelieveRecovery.org.
no.
We're going to close the mailbag, and we'll be back with the topic, how to identify a new addiction. Are you switching addictions? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So let's close the bag.
Questions and comments, your hopes and your fears. We're here to support you. Let's get engaged.
Hey, if you've got questions, comments, or opinions, we want to hear from you. Simply reply on any of the podcasting platforms that allows you to do so, or send us your email at Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, at CameToBelieveRecovery.org. That's Monty at CameToBelieveRecovery.org.
Stories, oh, we're never done.
Came to Believe Recovery is much more than a great podcast. Came to Believe Recovery is made up of men and women who have recovered from a variety of addictions, including drugs and alcohol. We are committed to helping others break free from their addictions through retreats, workshops, and other events that provide the tools and directions for a powerful spiritual awakening. For retreat dates, online 12-step meetings, and more, visit cametobelieverecovery.org. That's cametobelieverecovery.org.
Hey there. If you're one of our listeners tuning in on a major podcasting platform, did you know that you can watch us broadcast this show and all of our episodes on YouTube? That's right. You can see our smiling faces and positive demeanor in the video versions of our broadcasts. Simply visit our website at take12radio.com and click on the YouTube icon. And don't forget to subscribe to all of our shows for fun and for free. That's take12radio.com. Just click on the YouTube icon. Alrighty. Judy! Indeed. Yeah, you can watch the Jetsons somewhere. I have no idea where. By the way, it's National Speak in Complete Sentences Day. There you go. Don't you know, my wife does this. She'll be talking and
She'll just look at you.
just stop. And I'll say, what are you doing? She goes, I don't know. I go, you mean you forgot what you were saying in the middle of saying it? She goes, yeah. And I made fun of her, but I do that once in a while. Have you ever done that? All of a sudden you just, what was I saying? I don't know. Maybe the Myers are the only ones. Okay, what's the topic, Alicia? And this is uncomfortable.
It's good. It should be for all of us.
Sure.
And for everyone. How to identify a new addiction or addiction transfer or addiction switching, which I think is very, very common. And I don't think a lot of people really look at it and to see if they are doing it.
Don't you
But
think there's a
step
lot of
10
justification because they're going, well, at least I'm not doing dope anymore.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
not going to jail anymore.
Yeah, but it still is an addiction, or could be. And justification is a defect of character, so they should find that in their step 10 work.
But truth be known, I'm afraid that more people than do, more don't live in 10, 11, and 12 that
I
are in
agree.
the rooms drinking bad coffee, whining about their day.
I agree.
Yeah, I think very few do.
Yeah.
It's
That's why we're here. We're going to tell everybody.
So I gotta say, so I was sitting next to a gentleman in a meeting the other day, and he was just, I've seen him have some victories. I've seen him kind of melancholy, but he was just fit to be tied. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then he goes, God help me. God help me. I don't know what to do. And I thought to myself, several people have come to you and told you they'd sponsor you and take you through the step process. That's what you do.
right.
But he won't do it.
We can't make people, huh?
No, we can't. It's so frustrating. So, one of your talking points here, the definition of addiction is a chronic condition that involves compulsive seeking and taking of a substance or performing an activity despite negative or harmful consequences.
And then addiction transfer is when you stop one addiction and immediately transfer to another. Or I would also add, or continue to do one and you go to the other,
Oh yeah, you can have two at the same time. You mean?
right? Or three,
Or three.
or more. Why do you think we do that, Alicia? Why do you think even when we stop one and we're free from it? Why do we go? Why do we go from alcohol to food, for instance? Is it the sugar?
We're trying to fill that void. I'm trying to fill the void with something and not going to God. And he's the only one that can give us that satisfaction, I feel. And I'm looking for something else. I think I could do it better or.
So then we haven't really done the steps.
Well,
Not really.
I think we have, but we're just not staying in 10, 11, and 12, maybe.
Well, 10 says what we really have is a daily reprieve contingent upon our spiritual condition. So I think if you do your fourth step like we do it and you ask God to remove everything in step 7, your character really is transformed. You're not, your natures are not that of the left side or the left side of our legacy guide paper. And they're positive assets. What allows it? I think it's more if you've really done that and you're still, I really actually think if you've really done that and you're working 10, 11, 12, you're not susceptible to an addiction transfer. I think you would be very safe.
Because you would consider that relapse, right? Even though it's not the same substance or whatever, it's still a relapse, is it not?
Well, I don't know if it's a relapse, but it is certainly putting you on the path to that, because if your spiritual condition is not being maintained because you've decided that something else has to satisfy you, and it's something that has now become obsessive, and it gives you that feeling that you had, and it fills that mental, emotional, spiritual void.
Yes.
Then you're at risk of somebody might say you're one step away from a drink. Just go drink. You might as well.
I'm really going to step out on a limb here, and I'll even throw myself under the bus here because of past behaviors. If I'm switching addictions, because if I say, well, I relapsed on alcohol, right, then I'm referring to my addiction to alcohol and my relapse to it. But if I specifically say alcohol, then that means there's other things, right? So if I'm, let's go with the sugar thing. If I go back to pounding chocolate cake, an hour before I go to bed, or eat ice cream an hour before because I used to do things like that. If I go back to that, I've relapsed in that area. So it's still relapse. And if eating the cake or drinking the booze is a symptom, it's a symptom of the same thing. So we've relapsed away from dependency on God and started leaning on our own strength again. So it's a relapse, I think, when we switch addictions.
What about the people, and there's many, that have done the steps, are teaching the steps, and they're still addicted to sugar? I don't think they're relapsed. Do you?
Because to relapse it would suggest that you quit something, that there was a change in it and you went back to it. So if they've never gotten into recovery for the sugar addiction, then you can't relapse into something.
Isn't that even? Shouldn't they know? That's my problem.
Yes.
Shouldn't we know if we're doing something like that, especially if that's
where the more will be revealed thing, I think, happens. And
so
I think
sanctification process. So I don't think it's right.
Yeah, I think it's breaking old habits, right, and changing your activities. Yeah. But I'm going to say the thing. As much as I think you're not susceptible, I think you're going to grab a hold of that sugar and change, because we talked about how we're going to get right physically and mentally.
Right.
I think if you're really doing this, you will move away from that. You'll recognize that sugar's bad for you and you'll make those changes. I think it's a sign of recovered. It's a sign of a really strong spiritual condition and a well-established program that you're maintaining. If you're able to do it, I think it does come. It's a point of step 10 stuff, Alicia. It is. If you're still pumping sugar in yourself and it's hurting you because you're overweight and you're this and you're that,
Well, then
and you've already said, I'm not this and I'm not that, and God's taken that away from me, you haven't broken those habits. You got work to do.
Haven't you heard people say that that just foul mouth to the hilt when they walk in the door, and then they get clean and sober? And I've heard it many times. God's really been working on my language. I never had a desire to stop cussing, and suddenly I just don't want to do it. I don't like that about myself, so I'm working on that too now. Or the person that quit smoking after a while. It seems to me that when you really apply the principles, the spiritual disciplines in those 12 steps, particularly 10 and 11, after you've gone through them, God is going to make you aware and give you a desire to make some changes. And I don't know when that is for each person, so I really can't say, well, you should be thinking this way now, because I don't know how God is revealing that to you. But I think it's something that happens when you truly are living in a state of recovery from whatever you originally went into the program for. If it's not happening, I really wonder if you've really done the steps 1 through 9 properly. That's just my take on it.
Well,
am I too opinionated?
Well, that's 2 different questions. Yeah. But, well, we know that there's really 2 big reasons that people will go back with the steps. And I'm going to put it in the context of doing it this way. The way we do it is they left something out of their 5th step, which means they didn't admit a liability in their 4th step to tell somebody, and they didn't do 10, 11, and 12. So this is where I will agree with you, Monty. They didn't properly do a 5th step. They left something out. And they didn't decide, they didn't admit that they were addicted to sugar, and so they go on with it, and it continues to harm them. That has a risk if you don't. This is that rigorous honesty, thorough moral path, that everything doesn't have to get completely fixed in one day. But if you don't even admit it, you'll never do anything about it. And for a helpless and hopeless type of alcoholic addict, that kind of open door is bad, because what's next? We keep a hold of that. And what that's going to tell us eventually, I think, is, see, we're still no good. See, it didn't really work. See, why can't I do this? And all of a sudden, heck with it. I'll have a drink. Maybe. So I'm with you. I think, full-blown addiction transfers, that someone's really engaged in it. Yeah, there's some things that need to be looked at. It's one of those 2 things.
I think Monty, I think you started talking about it in the beginning, is that sometimes it might be a temporary thing, like a bridge. We talked about that on other shows, maybe.
Okay.
Like now they're not drinking, so they're going to have candy as a bridge. Or for my case, and I'm still using it, I use decaf coffee, I'm not going to eat that, so I'm going to drink coffee. But when does that become an issue too?
Well, I think maybe we go back to, if your life's becoming unmanageable due to your participation with the behavior or the substance or the food or whatever, then you can go, I'm back to step 1 with this, in this area.
I think there's like 3. Let's talk a little bit about how it looks, right? And I can tell you where I would, and what it isn't, right? Because sometimes switching an activity and getting another activity that takes up a lot of time doesn't mean that it's an addiction.
Or that it's bad.
Or that it's bad. So there's food and sugar, which is like a substance addiction. So that has a phenomenon, a craving element to it. That has
Yeah.
that element that's different than a behavioral element. And it's we know that they're parallel and it's not completely separate. But work addiction and exercise are two big ones for people. I've seen many people and I probably flirted with the exercise part years ago when I was doing, because I would definitely have days where I'd push other things away to go to exercise. I would sacrifice some family events. I would not go to places. My day was wrapped unhealthily around making sure the exercise got in.
Were you trying to make up for lost time?
I think, and I was trying to get a good feeling. I was trying to feel safe, and I was trying to feel worthy and trying to feel valued, right? All these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would flirt. And then if I didn't exercise, the obsession about it was, when am I going to go? When am I going to go? I got to get there. I got to get there. I'm getting weaker. It was too much. It was not healthy. Now, I worked my way through it. It never cost me anything particular, but I think I pushed through that to a level. That's a very common one because it can really grab a hold of you. And Alicia probably has some insight into this as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you want it now?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, did Alicia, when you gave up drinking, is that when your obsessive exercising happened, or was it before that?
No, I gave up drinking in 94, and I had the eating disorders then as well, but I kept it. I didn't see it as a thing. I saw it more as a diet, taking care of myself.
Even the exercise?
I didn't exercise until I was 33.
And then it became obsessive, though, right?
Yeah, it became obsessive when I was 40. Yeah, that was a later transfer. And then I made it my job. So then I
That's
had
how
to
you do it.
exercise.
Now you
And
have
I
to go.
taught
Yeah.
39 classes a week, and I ran in between classes.
And then
I
how
did
do you feel if you couldn't
triathlon.
do that?
Huh?
If you had a day where you couldn't do the exercise, how did you feel?
I did it. I broke my arm in all of that, and I was devastated. But then I would start doing it with my broken arm, and I would find a way. Addicts find a way, and I did.
When I had a back surgery, one of the big angst was, I can't work out for 2 months. I'm going to lose everything, and I'm going to be no good. This is a thing. Now I'm healthier now, and I got over it and went and did it. But these are struggles with the same thoughts, and they can show up. These are triggers. These would be 10-step things, right? To say, why am I thinking this way? Why is my peace, right? What I say, I'm reading my 9-step promises. Is peace. Uh-oh. Why am I feeling this way? Oh my gosh, I got this issue because I think if I don't points to something on your left side of your list. I better go talk to somebody. It's that quick. It's a 10-step thing to catch it, for sure.
Well, what about the fact that I definitely had exercise addiction? And now, I do step 10. I talk to you quite a bit about it, Tom. But my shoulder is pretty jacked up and my knee, and I'm not going to the doctor. That's a whole other issue. And I'm still jumping and running and doing all the things. So am I relapsing? I'm not exercising 39 hours a week, but you know what I mean? That's when I get like...
Well, is it causing problems?
Well, I'm able to exercise
lift up your arm.
still.
Grab something off a shelf. Lift up your arm. You can't. Yeah. So now, guys, you gotta. There's something I read the other day, but there's a specific medical description for what Alicia has by not going to the doctor and stuff. Do you want to know what it's called?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Dumbassery.
Well, the thing is, they're probably going to want me to do surgery or something
All I hear is
stupid, and I'm not doing it.
Because she doesn't know what they're going to say.
I'm not doing it. Also, I'm
come on,
able to
do
jump. I can still run. I can still do all the things. And in the past, stop. It's gone away. So I'm waiting for it
Oh,
to
yeah,
go
yeah.
away.
I've
So
known
I
you.
want-
That's
I
my
wanna-
rationale.
I want to refer to something real quick, so the listeners who may not know what we're talking about. In my hand, I have the Came to Believe Recovery Legacy Guide. I really encourage you all to get one of these. You can go to cametobelieverecovery.org. And in here, there's a list that Tom's talking about on your left side, on your right side.
Step 4 stuff.
Yes, in step 4. So, for instance, on the left side would be fear, self-pity, self-justification, self-importance, blah, blah. The right side would be courage, self-forgiveness, humility, modesty, that kind of thing. So when he talks about left side and right side, that's what he's referring to from the Legacy Guide. That is different than left side and right side thinking, though, as far as like the brain goes. Sometimes we refer to that too. But please, I'm putting a pin in it just for a second. Really, guys, get this book. Get this book. I got a couple of them, and I got one all marked up that I had to get another one. So anyway, get it.
Yeah. Get it.
Anyway, back to the show.
And so the next one is work addiction, right? Where people, it's a very common thing that people leave this, and it's a time saver. And, at the beginning when I got sober, I worked a lot. I remember calling my sponsor saying, I should go to a meeting tonight, but the boss offered overtime.
Yeah.
And I said, he said, well, do you have some debt? And aren't you trying to maybe you should take the overtime and go to work. But people, I've heard of so many people get overboard with work addiction, and they sacrifice their families and their kids and their children and all kinds of things because they get obsessed with work. And I guess it's money. You get obsessed with money because that's what it really is. Or maybe it's the satisfaction of whatever job you're doing and the accolades you get, right? Power, prestige, and whatever they call that.
Well, and it's the idea that I was such a knucklehead, and a loser and a deadbeat dad. I got to make up for lost time. So I got to go work and provide for my family. I got to do that. And the family's going, no, slow your roll. Go to the meeting. I don't want you doing over. We're fine. We're okay. Come home. Spend some time. Go to the picnic with us. Don't, you know what I mean?
So how would somebody come to the realization that they are working too much or eating too much or that their addiction switching?
Well, I think that's where we have failed to step up to the plate as sponsors.
We need to call them out on their
Yes.
crap. What if they don't have sponsors? So many people don't have.
Again, I say step up to the plate because within the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't know about all 12-step fellowships, but I do know in Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous both, one of the biggest complaints is 80% of people in the rooms do not have sponsors. That means 80% of the people in the rooms are not applying and implementing the steps. And one of the reasons is because people aren't making the approach and coming up to people and offering sponsorship like they used to do. It falls on us. And if you're going to meetings and you're sitting and that's all you're doing and you've done this thing and God has set you free and you're not walking somebody else through the process that God took you through in some way or another, if you're not working in the field somehow, if you're not presenting, if you're not sharing, but a lot of people just don't do it anymore. They just attend meetings and that's what they do. And if you want what we have, well, how do I know what you have unless you tell me, unless you show me?
Yeah, and I think that goes both ways. People are thinking that going to the meeting is going to fix them. They think that meeting makers make it or whatever they say.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go through it because they think it's too hard or it's not going to work. And then on the other side, there's people that don't want a sponsor. They already have one. It's going to take too much time. So I think it's both.
Yeah. And there's legitimate reasons why somebody may not be able to sponsor somebody. I get it.
But not everybody in the room would have that excuse.
So, Tom, you referred to workaholism. I was just thinking, though, what about the person that makes the meetings their addiction?
It's totally, and they will change their life around at all costs to go to meetings.
Yet they'll
Yeah.
neglect their family.
Neglect their family. Yeah, for sure.
You know, I was complaining about some personalities in a meeting several years ago, and a guy he literally stood up and looked at me. He goes, "You're going to too many meetings."
He
I
said
thought,
that to you?
wow, because I was going to 3 meetings a day, and this is like 5 years in. I'm going to 3 meetings a day. Why?
Wow. Yeah.
Why?
But again, in the beginning, maybe that would be a good
Maybe.
idea.
But I'll tell you why. Because I was meeting dependent. I hadn't even got step dependent yet, let alone God dependent.
Gosh, if we don't get, I mean, that's what it's so important that we understand that step 7 really works, right? If and that, of course, stepping back, step 7 can't work if you haven't taken on the manager or a God that could do it. You have to take on a living, loving, powerful God that could actually make this transformation. If step 7 really works, and you go out and do your amends, and you are diligent about working your 10, 11, and 12. What does Clarence says? You will never, never get drunk. And I'll say you'll not addiction switch. You just won't. I think you have a defense against it, like a defense against the first drink. If you are doing this, I think addiction switching, wasn't as quick to call it a relapse when we started, but I'm quicker to agree with you now to say if you truly are switching to addiction, if you really have gone to exercise or gone work or gone food crazy, you got a lot to look at. I mean, that could be a relapse. That could be something that you really got to go back and start over again and really take a look at what it is that you did. What program are you working? Because we should have a defense against these things that control our lives. This right side of this list, if you're living on the right side of our legacy guide 4-step inventory list, right, and you're managing in a 10, 11, and 12, you have the power to resist. You live in a recovered place. You don't have the need, the desire, like that thing that sucks you into exercise, that thing that sucks you into work. You don't need that because you're getting the satisfaction. It really is, thoroughly following the path. The program is the antidote. The strict following of the program. Do you agree?
100%.
You agree? So now I just want to, all right, well, I want to stop there because that's kind of a mic drop or a point of conversation if you want. But that's what I think. If you're doing it, you do have a defense against it. It's not an inevitability that we're always susceptible to addiction switch. If you're doing this, I don't think you are.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the evidence.
What did you say, Alicia?
I said, go ahead, Monty.
I was going to say that's what we talk about in treatment, that term evidence-based, right? The evidence is that it really works. The evidence is that when you do A, B happens. I mean, it just does. It's as natural as can be. When I, at the end of my day, when I review my day and I honestly do that, and I ask God to show me areas where I may have come up short and where do I need to make amends and what do I need to do? Not just show me, but then give me the desire to follow through with that, right? I'm telling you, I go to bed with a lot more healthy stuff in my head than Gutfeld, right? Sorry, conservatives. I love me some Gutfeld. But if I'm going to bed with a horror movie in my head at the close of the day, or scrolling on my iPad or whatever, and I'm not going to bed with God on my mind, no wonder I'm waking up with a snotty attitude. I'm not going to ask God to guide my day when I wake up, right? If I go to bed all poopy. But when I go to bed and I invite God to be part of this thing, and I'm going to wake up in the morning a different person. And I'm not going to reach for the bottle. I'm not going to reach for the overwork. I'm going to be looking at stuff going, I think I want to change some of that. God help me do it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Is because somebody in the audience could take, what I said as, well, then we so any temptations, anything, if we're not perfect, then we must have not done the steps right. Right. If I'm
That's
still
what I was
struggling with
hearing.
something. Right. Well, I knew what you were going to say. But here's the thing is that we start at different places with all the habits and the things and the way that's deep into our heads that we have to work out of. So while you are not the left side anymore, you could be so ingrained with habits with that takes some time to clear that out and create new habits so that you might take you longer for some of these things, like a work addiction or an exercise thing, to work its way out of you. But you're always working towards it. You're working where you could say, yeah, I know. I feel like I can't miss work. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have missed my kid's game. That's progress. I did it again. I shouldn't have missed it. Next time I'm going to not do that. Go home, do a step 10 on it. So there's a process. But if you're making progress, then you're not in trouble, I don't think. But it points to the 10-step process. Am I recognizing it, doing something about it, at least recognizing it? That's half the battle, if not more, and doing something. Leisha talks about all her stuff all the time. So she's getting better at it, even if it's tiny, it's getting better. She has a desire to get better. I do too. I have things they talk about all the time. I hate this traffic, this stuff crazy. It drives me crazy. I can't take it. And some other things, and impatience. I'm very impatient, and it drives me to do some things that you could say, well, you're not so healthy with there. That's a little bit of addictive behavior. I don't know, maybe work for me, some people would say. Tom never turns this off, right? And but I got an exercise under control. I can miss a day or so of exercise. It doesn't cause that mental thing.
Yeah. I can miss a day or so of exercise. I've mastered that.
What's the non-exercise addiction, Alicia?
Non-exercise addiction?
Yeah, the people that don't exercise at all.
They're lazy.
Oh, man.
Procrastination.
Wow.
Ignorant. Maybe they just don't, in a good way, they just don't know the benefits of it.
And then there's those who are addicted to judgmentalism.
Yes.
Pride, spirit.
Tolerance. Bring it.
Hey, you know what? I heard a guy say the other day, we were talking about inventory, and he goes, I've learned to love myself. And the Bible says love does not keep a record of wrongs.
Right.
I was like, you are kidding, right? He was just kidding. He says, therefore, I don't have to do my inventory.
Well, that's the problem. I have another problem is that I take everybody else's inventories.
Yeah.
Instead of just staying in my lane.
Well, it's a big highway.
Well, it's a burden when we do that. It is a burden. I dip in and out of it, but I'm better when I don't do the inventory taking. It is, you end up,
other people.
worrying, and they don't
thing.
care.
It's a big
They don't
thing.
care.
And I think they should know better. They should know better. How come they're still doing this and this and that?
Yeah, you take it personal.
Yeah, by capitalizing every letter in the last part of the talking points. And this is what she wrote, listeners. The world is addicted to sugar and carbs, and everyone can see it.
I can. I think that feeds into the main problem. Everybody thinks it's okay to eat all the sugar because everybody is.
Well, here's the worst
Most
part.
of the world is obese and overweight, so it's fine.
Here's the even worse part, though. See, that would be a denial. Most people aren't. They aren't in denial. They know it's wrong. They know it's bad, and they continue to do it anyway. And that's the bad part.
I don't know if they know.
You don't think they know?
I don't know. They think it's fine.
How
I'm
can you
eating
not?
good. I'm eating oatmeal and bread and pasta. It's good.
I was in Costco the other day, and we were back by where the butcher place is and all that. Well, they also have all the wines back
goods.
there and the bakery. And I was walking by because there's also a lot of processed foods. that are prepackaged that they get in, right? And I'm walking and buy these things, and I'm looking at them. I'm going, that one will kill you. That one will kill you. That one will kill you. I just go and buy it. I'm looking at all this stuff. And then I was watching a commercial the other day about some processed food where you could order it. It comes to your house and all that stuff. And it was all processed garbage, and it looked like hospital food.
See, people don't know. They don't know. And
you
hospital
go-
food is causing diabetes. Food they give you in the hospital it's ridiculous.
How would you know, Alicia? You don't even go to hospitals
I
or
don't go to the
doctors
hospital,
or
but I
anything.
can see it. I see what they
I could just
feed
see
people.
Alicia going in for her rotator cuff surgery with her meat. With her, do you have a
I'm
refrigerator?
not having
for my meat?
surgery. Ever.
Not having surgery. According to Alicia, sugar addiction is worldwide and needs more awareness. 75% of Americans eat excess sugar, probably higher than that. 31% are overweight, 1 in 3. 44% are obese, 2 in 5. Isn't obesity technically 10 pounds over your ideal weight? Isn't that considered obese?
That I don't know.
That's what I heard years ago. That means I'm no longer obese. I'm only 3 pounds over my ideal weight. Brag, 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 brag. But I got to be careful. What is it? What comes before a fall? Pride comes before a fall. I think, and going back to the thing about alcohol to food, alcohol to marijuana, food to alcohol, that kind of thing. Don't you think that the switching from alcohol to food is primarily because you're still in sugar lane? Because alcohol is like pure sugar, and you're just okay. You gave up the gin or the vodka or whatever, but the sugar aspect of it is still with you. And I knew a guy whose wife stood at the door of the apartment in the middle of the night and surprised him when he tried to sneak out to go buy Snickers bars, because he was still chemically dependent on the sugar from his alcoholism, that he was chomping these things down. Don't you think it's because of the sugar?
Totally. Yes. Yeah. And again, I don't know even if that is a safe bridge or not.
I don't know. But it's almost like you're eating your booze.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a safe.
And then getting overweight and diabetic and blah blah blah, and then
when
another addiction.
Americans were set up for failure. What they say is, 60 or 70% of everything in the grocery store is not considered food, and it wasn't on the shelves 100 years ago.
Right.
It didn't even exist. But that's what Americans, and I guess other places, we speak for Americans because we're here, that's what your options are to the general public who goes out, and the TV and the media and everything, and they put it in a fancy wrapper saying it's heart healthy, and this is what there is on the shelf, and there isn't without some effort. So I go to airports all the time. I'm in airports all the time. And if I don't bring something healthy with me as a snack, nuts or peanuts, I can't even buy nuts.
You're going to starve.
Cashews in some of the airports now. It's potato chips and nacho chips and Doritos.
And energy drinks.
Of every flavor of it you could want. And candy.
I know,
I go
it's
from
disgusting.
vendor to Hudson News to one to try to find plain cashews to eat. So the choice is, who's doing that to us, right? Nobody's giving us good, healthy choices.
And
It's
why?
frustrating.
Yeah, I won't even go there. It's another show. We don't have
So
time.
last Sunday, our pastor is teaching out of Revelations. He was in Revelation 17,
Airport food.
and he said, "What I'm going to talk about today. If you think there's a conspiracy against you, you're right,
There is.
because this is the bottom line. The basis for all of this is a spiritual attack. And it comes from the enemy of our soul, who wants to kill, steal, and destroy us. And he's going to hit us up in different areas. For some, it's financial. For some, it's alcoholism. For some, it's pornography. For some, it's neglect of loved ones. For some, it's this and that and the other thing, And it certainly is in our what we, because we eat every day. So so if you were the devil, you say, what does that guy do every day? He eats. right? So I think there's maybe some people know this, maybe it's unbeknownst to some people up in the higher ups, but there's a whole thing going on, and it's a spiritual war, and it's coming in through the pharmaceuticals, it's coming in through the food industry, it's coming, and his whole desire is to get, if he can't get us away from God, he's going to kill us.
And you know who he uses? The money addicts. Because the money addicts begin to be the the workaholics, and the money addicts are the easy prey to say, make cheap stuff, make it real easy, make a lot of money off this, don't make healthy food because we make more money. So he's in their ear going, you can get away with this, and you can have $4 billion. If you get away with this, there's money behind it. If there was no money behind it, so that's what the other side that the evil one
And
uses.
we keep buying it,
money.
so they're going to keep making it.
Yeah, and then
Stop
it
buying it.
we
won't
got
make it
power.
anymore.
Listen, Alicia, I am with you. If you don't buy it, they won't make it anymore because they won't be making any money. And I wanted that with gas. I said, how do we lower gas prices? Just stop buying it. Gas prices go down quick. Yeah. Well,
All right, we're out of time, guys.
we are not. We need another. What's the next show? How to stop the food companies?
It's it's
eating
Surrender
sugar.
for the Control Freak.
Ooh,
Oh, no.
that's a good one.
I don't want to do that.
I'm trying to control it.
I think we should do something different, and I'm not going to be on it if you do that.
Well,
Is that Control Freak?
I'm telling you, these. I look at these topics that Alicia sends us, and I'm thinking, boy, these are certainly God is putting them in her ear, because Surrender for the Control Freak. The next week is Serenity Prayer. The next week is Truth versus Denial. I mean, come on, Tom. It doesn't matter which one you switch; it's going to make you uncomfortable.
That's how we
And
grow.
this is from the woman who wishes God would talk to her more.
Yes.
Right, Monty? Where do you think that came? All these topics that are clearly
I
not
know.
a non-godly person thinking.
You know, just because he doesn't show up in a puff of smoke over your living room table when you're praying to him doesn't mean he isn't talking loud and clear, Alicia.
You made us do this today, and look what good came of it. Most likely somebody listened to this and said, I got to take a look at this that I'm doing.
At the very least, somebody's
Mrs.
going, you guys are a bunch
Martinez.
of religious freaks.
That's okay. We'll take it. That's right. We are.
Spiritual.
All right,
Yeah.
closing
Wait,
thoughts.
I talking about what we do. Let me just say this: I was watching a podcast of the church that I'm starting to go to here in New York City with John Tyson, who's teaching. It's a church of the city. I'm going to call it out. He gave the statistics, so I'm sure he'd give them anywhere. And he said in his church they do surveys all the time. And he said the one that bugs him the most, he can't get behind it, is 98% of the people in his church were believers when they came. He said, it's what we say, 98%. He said, what are we doing here?
Wow.
Right? 98%. And he said, in the last year, this is a place that puts 1,000 people in their seats every week. They had 100 people, new people come. I said, we've had 100 in the last 2 months. Anyway.
Right. Well, like you said last week, I think you know, God said go.
Yeah.
That's why we live like you. The thing that you came up with, living in the go. You know,
Living in the
go
go.
and
That
make
I
disciples.
came up with, yeah.
Yeah,
I came up with that.
Tom
yeah.
Williams came up with that, living in the go. Yep. Our buddy Roddy, he says it all the time. Living in the go, living in the go, living in the go. It's like, John.
So, I mean, how
All
does
right.
it matter here? Well, we got to be out. We have the answer. We have an answer. We have an answer to those that are struggling. We reach those that are struggling with all kinds of things. And addiction switching is something we should have on guard for. And we should have a plan. And we should be working at 10, 11, and 12 of them. We are much less, if not immune, with a defense against the first behavior or a switching addiction. We would have it.
Good word.
I
Alicia,
say,
closing
just
thoughts
be
from you.
honest and look at yourself. And when you are stressed or upset, what are you running to? That would be a clue of what your addiction switching might be. And maybe addiction is too heavy of a word. Maybe what are the idols in your life that need to be
there you
looked
go.
at? Or what are you running to rather than God? And we all do it, me included. There's something, and I think we need to look at it.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Jacob Smalley is the one singing this song, and it's entitled Sober. Here's Jacob.
I started one more Sunday with a whiskey in my hand instead of on my knees, and I don't understand. The thing that's supposed to drown my pain is slowly drowning me. There's gotta be another way. Someone set me free. I just wanna be sober and learn to live again. I wanna be sober and stop letting down my friends. My baby girls look up to me. I'm trying to raise a family. I've got to get this gone before it's over. I wanna be sober. I left your soccer game last Monday with a fifth down on the floor. I never saw the stop sign or that truck hit my right door. And as the tire screamed and the glass flew, I looked up to the sky. So damn it, if you're listening, please don't let me die. I just wanna get sober. I wanna learn to live again. I wanna get sober and stop letting down my friends. A better man, I swear I'll be. I'll be there for my family. God, please don't let this end here on this shoulder. 'Cause I wanna get sober. Get sober. I wanna learn to live again. I'm gonna get sober. So I remember where I've been. My family's still here with me. My best days are in front of me. 'Cause while I'm climbing's high, but I'll get over. 'Cause I'm gonna get sober. Sober. I'm gonna get sober. I'm gonna stay sober. I'm gonna stay sober.
Well, though Jacob Smalley's song Sober refers to alcoholism, sobriety is, of course, not limited to abstinence from liquid courage. Sobriety comes in many forms: freedom from narcotic addiction, toxic relationships, workaholism, pornography, and, of course, emotional sobriety, just to name a few. Truth be told, most of us have had an unhealthy dependency on one thing or another at some point in our lives, which begs the question, how are you doing today? Is there something that seems to have you by the throat, attempting to control or even destroy your life? Or perhaps it doesn't appear to be as serious as all that, yet you just don't seem to be able to break free from it. You're not experiencing all you can be because of your dependency upon that thing, person, or concept. Identifying an addiction doesn't have to be as difficult as it may appear. Most of us know when we are caught in powerlessness. And if that is you, well, we have good news. There is freedom from the bondage of addiction. It's found in the power provided by God through His Holy Spirit. It's not about religion. It's about relationship. So if you would like to know specifically how we here at Came to Believe Recovery have recovered from what once seemed like a hopeless life of addiction, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, at cametobelieverecovery.org. Let's start a conversation that could very well point you in the direction of freedom from the bondage you may be experiencing. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for fun and for free. I look forward to hearing from you. Came to Believe Recovery strives to create and promote opportunities for life-changing spiritual experiences for individuals and families suffering from all forms of addiction. For more information, help, and support, visit cametobelieverecovery.org. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be your host on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. And I would encourage you to like, bookmark, and subscribe to this show. When you do, you will join the Take 12 Recovery Radio family and will be notified of all of our recovery-focused shows throughout the week. Until our next broadcast, when we provide the essential spiritual tools needed to thrive by sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope through our stories of how we came to believe.
This has been a production of Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Yeah, kitty, kitty, kitty. Meow.
Woof, woof.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.